When Elena Rossi woke up that Wednesday morning, she never imagined her entire life was about to be turned inside out, shaken, dragged across the internet, and somehow, against all odds, pieced back together into something stronger, something she never knew she deserved. She was already 10 minutes behind schedule when she rushed out of her tiny apartment, hair half-pinned, the same gray slacks she'd ironed 3 days in a row, and the shoelace on her right sneaker threatening mutiny. Elena wasn't sloppy. She was simply exhausted. 2 years working at Kane and Hartwell Group had taught her how to function on too little sleep, too much coffee, and a constant fear of disappointing people who didn't even know her name. Her job title sounded clean and neat on paper. Administrative Assistant, 21st Floor, Internal Operations. In reality, she was the human version of duct tape. Fix the supply closet, book the sudden boardroom meeting, answer 5 calls at once, smile at people who forgot she existed every time they stepped away. That morning the servers were glitching, her team lead was breathing fire, and Elena's inbox was exploding with messages titled urgent from people who used that word the way toddlers used crayons, carelessly and everywhere. Somewhere between replying to 3 emails and trying to swallow a dry granola bar, she wrote her weekly logistics report. The very same report she emailed straight to the man who ruled the tower of Kane and Hartwell. Adrian Kane. 36. Brilliant. Terrifying. CEO by inheritance and intelligence combined. A man who walked like the building bowed for him and looked like he stepped out of a minimalist fashion magazine nobody could afford. Most employees feared him. Few ever spoke to him. Elena barely dared to breathe near him. But that morning, she didn't send him the logistics report. She sent him something else, her grocery list, a list that should have stayed between her, the supermarket, and maybe her therapist, if she ever had time for one. She didn't realize what she'd done until 11:08 a.m., when her co-worker and unofficial emotional support system, Maya, slid into her cubicle with a face pale enough to be cast in a ghost movie. "Elena," she whispered, "you need to check your sent folder, like, now." Confused, Elena clicked. There it was. Instead of the weekly inventory file, she had emailed Adrian Kane a document titled, "Groceries, please remember you chaotic gremlin." Inside, Daugoi giare, mui dua, kong lavender nua, shin, lam on. Eggs, only if on sale. Bung vising loai dai, jung quen. Dark chocolate. Loai kin man tin vao tin yu them 5 foot. Bon bakery batki. Surprise me, universe. Something small to make me feel like I'm not failing at adulthood. Elena froze. Then unfroze. Then wished she could freeze forever. Maya covered her mouth. "Oh my God, girl. You just invited the CEO into your emotional instability." Elena's heartbeat became a blur. She whispered, "I'm fired." Maya shook her head dramatically. "Worse. You'll be escorted out by security while holding your leftovers in a sad Tupperware." Elena wanted to sink into her office chair and never return. And then, her inbox chimed. New message from Adrian Kane. Subject. No subject. No words. Just an attachment. Elena clicked. It was a picture, a brown paper bag. Inside it, the exact coconut shampoo. Eggs with a red 25% off sticker. Dark chocolate. The fancy brand she'd never buy herself. A pack of thick pads. A small bakery pastry wrapped in wax paper. And below the photo, 2 words. Lunch today. Elena forgot how to breathe. Maya screamed silently beside her, waving her hands. This is either romantic or a professional obituary. At 12:14 p.m., Elena found herself standing in the cafeteria, paralyzed between the salad bar and a sign that said, "No outside food." Irony was alive and well. And then everything went quiet. Because Damien himself walked in. People parted like he was the Red Sea. He saw her instantly. "Elena Rossi," he said, holding the brown paper bag like it was a peace offering. Or maybe a bomb. Hard to tell. "Mr. Kane," Elena stammered. "I hope I picked the right brand," he said calmly. "The coconut scent. You were quite detailed." Her face burst into flames. She looked around at the sea of phones, pretending not to record. I didn't mean to send that. It was a mistake. I'll delete the email. And I understand if you—" He raised a hand slightly, stopping her with gentleness she didn't expect. "I read reports every day, Elena. Dry, lifeless, copy-pasted reports." Then he held up the bag. "But this was honest." She blinked. "Honest?" He gestured toward an outdoor courtyard. "There's a quiet table outside, if you're not too embarrassed to be seen eating chocolate with the enemy." She almost said no, almost ran home, almost pretended none of this happened. But somehow, she followed him out. And that moment changed everything. They sat under a maple tree. The breeze tugged at her hair clip, the old plastic one that creaked every time she opened it. Damien noticed. He reached into the bag and pulled out a small velvet pouch. Inside it, a golden hair clip shaped like a tiny leaf. "It looked like yours might break soon," he said softly. She almost cried. Almost. But then the universe decided crying wasn't needed. Because at 1:07 p.m., Maya burst outside with her phone raised like a news reporter. "Elena, you're trending on the company group chat." A blurry photo of Elena and Damien under the maple tree had blown up with embarrassing speed. Caption: "From grocery lists to love lists?" Elena wished the earth would take her. By 2:17 p.m., everyone knew. By 2:23, the photo mysteriously disappeared, confirming every rumor. By 3 p.m., Elena received a meeting invite. Meeting, clarification on logistics report. Attendees: Damien Kane, Elena Rossi. Location: Executive Conference Room 5A. She nearly fainted. "Is this code for being fired?" she asked Maya. "No," Maya corrected. "It's code for drama. Bring mints." Conference Room 5A felt like a shark tank disguised in glass and leather. Damien stood when Elena walked in. She nearly burst into tears at the respect. "Elena," he said. "Sit." She did. He didn't open any files. He didn't lecture. He simply asked, "Did you behave unprofessionally?" "No." "Did I?" "No." "Then we don't apologize." She blinked. "What?" He slid a printed memo toward her. A company-wide announcement. "Personal interactions between colleagues are not grounds for speculation or gossip. Today's incident was a respectful, private moment. Please redirect attention to actual work. D. Kane." Elena stared at the letter, stunned. "You're sending this?" "Only if you're comfortable," he replied. Her voice trembled. "I thought you'd want me to apologize." "For what?" Damien asked. "Buying you a croissant?" She didn't know whether to laugh or cry. But the real battle began afterward. Because Veronica Hale, director of PR, arrived in the hallway with a smile sharp enough to slice glass. "Elena," she said sweetly. "A word?" Her office was cold, white, immaculate, the kind of room that made you feel messy just by existing in it. Veronica sat down, folded her hands, and began with, "There's been some confusion regarding boundaries." Then she slid a cream envelope across the desk. "This arrived an hour ago. Mr. Kane added your name to his table for the Kane Foundation Gala." Elena's throat tightened. "I didn't know," she whispered. "No," Veronica replied, her smile thin. "But understand something. If you attend, you confirm everything people are whispering." Elena managed a breath. "So you're telling me not to go?" "I'm suggesting," Veronica corrected, "that you remember the difference between being visible and being valued. Elena walked out feeling smaller than ever. But that night, as she ate cheap soup in her tiny apartment, her phone buzzed. Unknown number. Don't let her intimidate you. You belong anywhere you choose to stand. DK. Her breath caught. The next night she wore the navy dress she'd been too scared to wear for 2 years. She pinned her hair with the gold clip. She didn't feel wealthy. She didn't feel powerful. But she felt worthy. At the gala, Damien stood waiting for her. When he turned and saw her, he froze. You look like someone who finally remembered she deserves space, he whispered. But the night didn't stay kind. Veronica intercepted her, holding her phone. A tabloid headline glowed. CEO's Cinderella assistant sparks scandal. Secret past revealed. They had found Elena's old fundraiser letter, the one she'd written begging for donations for her father's surgery, the one full of raw honesty and love, twisted into a narrative of manipulation. For the first time that night, Elena broke. Damien found her outside, shaking. He took her to a quiet street, bought sandwiches, chips, chocolate milk. They sat on a park bench. I used to clean offices like yours, she confessed. I dropped out of college to save my dad. I've survived my whole life by staying invisible. Damien looked at her the way no one ever had. You don't need to be invisible anymore. But the world didn't care. The rooftop lunch a few days later, just them, sandwiches, and a gentle skyline, should have been peaceful. Instead, someone from a nearby building snapped a photo. Hashtag rooftop romance. By noon, HR sent a notice. All employees involved in media exposure regarding personal relationships with executive leadership must disclose, or risk termination. That night, in Elena's apartment, Damien rolled up his sleeves, sat at her tiny table, and said quietly, I care about you. More than I should. More than the board accepts. More than I can hide. Elena looked at him, exhausted, honest. Then say it publicly, she whispered. I won't be a secret someone protects. I want to be someone you choose. So the next morning, she didn't wear gray. She wore navy blue. She walked into the boardroom beside Damien, chin lifted. He faced the board and said, Elena is not in a romantic relationship with me. Not yet. But I hope she will be. She is someone I respect deeply, and I will restructure our reporting lines to remove any conflict. Silence. Shock. And then something unexpected. Agreement. Elena was offered a new role, independent from Damien, at the Kane Foundation's education programs. Her past, her struggles, her grit suddenly mattered. But life wasn't done surprising her. That night someone rang her doorbell. Her mother, Lucia Rossi, the woman who left when life became too heavy. They sat at the table with mugs of tea. I saw you on the news, her mother said. They don't know you, but I do, and I'm sorry I left. Her mother reached into her purse, revealing an old pearl hair clip. This was yours, for when you're ready, to forgive me. Elena cried for the first time in weeks. Forgiveness wasn't immediate, but it began. And then, at 7 sharp, another knock. Damien stood there. No suit, no cameras, just a paper bag of food he tried and failed to cook perfectly. They sat together, talked for hours. Not about damage control or rumors, but dreams and fears and everything in between. Finally, he handed her a folded letter. A promotion. A new position under the foundation. A future not built on romance, but on merit. You're getting this, he said, because you earned it long before I ever knew your name. Tears filled her eyes. Their first kiss wasn't dramatic. It wasn't cinematic. It was soft, warm, real, like two people finally letting themselves breathe. 6 months later, Elena sat on a park bench, this time in spring, blossoms drifting around her. Damien handed her a small notebook. On the cover, life list? Inside, page 1 was blank. Damien smiled. Want to fill it out with me? Elena took the pen. For the first time in her life, she didn't feel like she was surviving. She felt like she was beginning.